I'm here. I'm going to interview Suzanne Morrissey Kozlowski. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. She is an Irish woman. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
From Ireland, yes. And she migrated, or maybe ran, to Poland because of potentially, I think we talked about briefly, targeting in Ireland, which I'd love to hear about at some point. Today we were going to focus on what's happened to her recently. She was diagnosed positive, which we know sometimes means positive, sometimes means negative, sometimes means nothing.
Yes.
But she got a positive diagnosis, and she is currently in quarantine. And my first impression was it was quite severe. We're heading in that direction now in the USA, but we haven't gotten there quite yet. In fact, some states I think are pretty open, like Florida. Most of the Republican-run states are a little bit more open. So first of all, I wanted to ask you, how did this start out? Where did you get the positive diagnosis, or how did you get it?
Well, I was informed that I had been in contact. I was being in contact with somebody who was positive, and it was a 90-year-old man who 90? Was in hospital. Yeah, and he's battling cancer, and he was in hospital, and his daughter had gone to visit him in the hospital, and I went to a party in her house. You were allowed 6 people in the house, so we were in our number. We were 6 people, and after that party was on a Saturday night, and on the Monday, I was contacted to say that the girl's father had coronavirus, and they were testing everybody.
So it was through contact tracing.
Yes.
How does that start? How did the whole wheel get oiled? Like, how does it start, that contact tracing? Did the elderly man say, I had it and my daughter was here, and tell an authority? How does that scary contact tracing kind of work?
Well, he had been in hospital because he's gone through cancer treatment, and where he was staying in the hospital in the ward, the gentleman in the ward got coronavirus first, and then infected him, and his daughter had gone to visit him. So he tested positive, and then they contacted everybody who the daughter was in contact with.
So then the hospital did?
No, it's a special task force team. They come out, they come out in hazmat suits. They come out either in police cars or ambulances. They come out and they track you. And
so the hazmat force was contacted by the hospital. So this is an elite force. Sounds very intimidating, very scary. Okay, so they were informed through contact tracing. So apparently everybody who visited so the girl probably that visited her father had written down her name.
Yes.
And so they called her, and they said, who have you been in contact with, type of thing. And then they got your name, right?
Well, then what was very interesting was the father who was battling cancer and got the coronavirus in hospital was told that the treatment for the coronavirus was he was going to be sent home to his apartment, and his wife would have to go into quarantine with the daughter, and he would have to stay alone in the apartment, and he would have his visitors, the quarantine team, or maybe some care workers, to go and leave him food. So the treatment for a man with cancer in his 90s was to go home for 2 weeks, and that was and take over-the-counter medicine like vitamin C and a normal cough bottle, nothing other than over-counter medicine, and that was what they told him to do.
Interesting, because globally we're being told he would be in the high risk. He's got underlying symptoms, he's elderly, and these are the people they send home. That's interesting.
Yes. And his wife then had to go to the daughter's house. And after 4 days, that gentleman tested negative. He got rid of the coronavirus out of his system, a 90-year-old man with cancer, in 4 days.
So within 4 days, he tested negative.
Yes.
Yeah, there's just an avalanche, in my opinion, of situations that disprove the mainstream narrative, what we're being told. When you really look into it, it's like, I'm calling it the Dr. Seuss of medical care. It's like left is right, up is down, green eggs and ham. It's just like, it's nonsensical.
Well,
So
when it first started, in March, we're 250 days into this. I've been counting since we started our first lockdown, and at first I didn't know anybody. I was like, I don't know anybody with coronavirus. This is a joke. This is a joke. Now, basically, every second or third apartment, it's in quarantine over here. There's somebody. If one person gets it, the whole house, it goes in. All the members go into quarantine.
So by getting it, it means they tested positive. They may not,
Yes.
they may be totally healthy.
Yes.
It could be filled with healthy people.
Yes.
But they've tested positive to something.
That's
and
correct.
They're saying it's the COVID.
Yes. And you
could be all healthy people.
Yes. So for example, a friend of ours, the wife went to the doctor. She wasn't feeling well. She tested positive for coronavirus. The husband had to leave work. He had to go home. The two daughters had to go home. They were quarantined at home. The police came outside their house every day to check they didn't leave. Then you have to do an exercise in the evening, like send an email or do a little video or run the tap in the kitchen. They ask you to do a little exercise every evening to make sure you're still at home. And so after 2 weeks, they retested the whole family. The wife was clear, but now the husband was testing positive. And they had to go do another 2 weeks quarantine, even though the husband had no symptoms. The whole four of them had to go another 2 weeks until they came out again and tested. Luckily, they all, on this fourth week, they all got all clear. No one had the virus anymore. But only the wife showed symptoms there, and she was over them in a few days.
So in your situation, you had been at a gathering of 6 people and you were contact traced. So tell me what it was like when this, did you call it a hazmat team, showed up at your house? What was that like?
Yes, well, right now there's a hazmat team actually right outside my door right now, and there's an ambulance. Luckily, they're not for me because I'd be terrified. They're going upstairs to an elderly neighbor who's 80 years old. Him and his son have tested positive, and they come in all their gear and they run up the stairs. They test. Maybe they test every few days to see if they still testing positive. And those two men have been in quarantine for well over a month. Really, they've not been outside the door, and they're still testing positive for the coronavirus. It's not getting out of their system. So the hazmat team is here a few times a day, all the white gear up, everything, and doing their tests. And you need to get this positive, you need to get a negative so that you can go back out on the street normally and have your neighbors not afraid of you and go to the shop again, or go back, that son needs to go back to work. It's vital that you get your negative test. And so it is very scary when you see them. They were visiting me, then they've gone up to another neighbor, and it's like there's a constant presence. They spray the stairs, you go outside the apartment, and the smell and the chemicals, it's unbelievable.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
When this all happened here in the US, I did some studies and I did a YouTube video, and I was studying David Icke and some medical doctors that had come out. And their opinion was that the positive you get is from the presence of what's called an exosome in your body. Yes. And an exosome is released in all human beings under stress, is one thing, under radiation, and one of the 60 or 70 coronaviruses. So probably every one of us on this planet would one time or another, if you've ever had it, if you're under stress, which of course, the hazmat teams immediately, your body's going to fill with adrenaline. You're going to be terrified.
Absolutely.
And so they're going to come up and they're going to test you. And if this theory was right, and I can't remember the name of the doctor, but there was 2 or 3 doctors that I had quoted, and David Icke had quoted in his interview, and I relayed in my video, the getting a positive test, it probably everybody in the world will test positive at some point during the day for exosomes. Yes. So we're in like this catch-22. We don't have those hazmat teams here yet, but it could be coming unless we take back our power and sort of.
The hazmat team are everywhere. Like if you go to the supermarket, because now we're in lockdown and we're in a quite severe lockdown, there's only supermarkets, petrol stations, and pharmacies open. and the only people that can go to work are, essential workers, doctors, and whatever. So if you need to get into a supermarket, they scan you with the temperature, or you have to walk through this big machine like you're going through an airport, and it's like an infrared, and it can tell the people in the crowd who have a higher temperature, and the security guard can pull you aside, and he can then scan you. And if you have a high temperature, they may tell you, because if the hazmat team is waiting there, they may push you over because they're looking for people to test. And if you need to go into the shop, you have to have a low temperature. You can't go with a high temperature. If you want to go into work.
There are reasons we can have a high temperature.
Yes.
You could have a high temperature from seasonal allergies, from your cycle of your period,
Yes.
from, any, 100 other reasons, because your
Mhm.
body temperature goes up when it's sort of fighting, some sort of, so COVID could be very, very minimal in people, and they're being yanked out of line. I mean, this sounds like a very, very scary science fiction movie
Mhm.
of something that could never happen on planet Earth. And
Yes.
here we are, you're living it.
Well, we're 250 days into this, and maybe 255, and you know what? It seems normal for us now. I carry a thermometer in my bag, and now this is before I was sick, but I would go to the shop, and before I went to the shop, I would test myself to make sure that between the time I left the house and got there, I didn't. Sometimes I'd be warm in the car, sometimes because it's not. It's to get that positive test, and then they say to go to quarantine. Your life is over. You can't make money. You can't work. You can't pay your bills. And it's
You can't get fresh air. You can't get
yeah,
healthy.
yeah. But we have to wear a mask when you go outside the house anyway. Everybody in Poland has to wear a mask, or you're fined 500 zloty if you don't wear a mask. That's a week's wages over here. It's a lot of money. So anyway, to go for a walk, I find it very difficult with the masks. I really
Yeah.
do.
I mean, if you've suffered any kind of abuse or you're targeted, for me, I feel like I'm suffocating right away.
Yes. Yes.
So I can't wear one. If I absolutely have to get in somewhere, I'll, put a scarf up over my mouth. But it's if you're sensitive energetically, it feels dehumanizing. It feels like your soul's being repressed, your humanity. So it attacks you on many different levels. Physically,
Yeah.
I can feel the poisons, breathing in the poisons. So it's a mask of, in my opinion, it's a mask of slavery, symbolic of slavery and submission. And there's very little evidence indicating it's doing any positive for humanity.
No.
And
It's
especially
really.
at this point, the death as a result of COVID restrictions seems to be is much higher than, the actual COVID deaths. If there are any, I wonder, if this is just the flu, or again, it's exosomes that are being tested and retested, and you keep coming positive. Because in that instance, if you have this hazmat team coming in, you're going to be terrified.
Yes.
And so you're going in, if the positive is actually the presence of exosomes, you're always going to be filled with exosomes if you have this terrifying hazmat team running into your apartment.
Yes.
It's more disturbing than I anticipated.
Well, you know what about the hazmat team is that when other people see it, they don't want to come near you. They think they're going to die if they come near you, and you can't go out, and you could really need somebody to get you something from the shop, and because of this, nobody will come near you and ask you, do you want something? Because they're all afraid that they'll get it. If they'll be out of work, they'll be out of money. This is not a country that is a social welfare country. You have to work. You don't work, you don't have any money. So to be told not to go into work is what people are really afraid of, and they don't come near you. And I find that the hardest, that you're not even sick, but they're saying you're sick, and people are afraid of you.
As a psychological operation, I do think this is like MK Ultra mind control. This is the goal. They wanted us to see each other as diseases and not as other humans, because there's strength in our unity. But now we're starting to see each other as a disease or a potential disease. And the PSYOP is amazingly successful, considering there's no bodies lining the streets. You wouldn't see it unless the media was telling you. except in
Yeah.
rare instances. You know, there's no evidence
Mhm.
of death by COVID. We're basically depending on the media to tell us the truth, and the hospitals telling the media, which in America, we all know now that the mainstream media is lying about just about everything.
Yes.
So, so how long have you been in quarantine?
Well, I'm clear now, but I stayed at home for 1 month. 1 month.
You've got cleared.
Yeah.
Good. So
Yeah.
you stayed in your very small house,
Yes, very small. Yeah.
250 square feet, did you say?
Yes. Yes. The apartments here are small in general. Yeah.
And you couldn't go out. You basically couldn't even go outside your front
No.
door. You couldn't get air. You couldn't run. You
No.
couldn't walk.
No.
Why?
Maybe I could
Because your
open a
husband was
window.
bringing you food. I mean, did your
Yes.
husband, he was able to come and go?
Yes. We were okay because my husband drives a truck and he slept in his truck a little bit outside my window so I could see him and he could see me, and he'd stay there at night time and he'd bring me stuff to the window if I needed it. And I was
I mean, he can't be with you?
no, or else he'd have to go to quarantine too, and he couldn't go to work.
So where did he stay?
He stayed in his truck.
He lived in his truck for 30
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
It's just amazing what's happening to humanity. In all these situations, we don't understand what's really happening minute to minute, day by day to survive. Your husband's living in his truck for 30
Mhm.
days, so he doesn't have to quarantine, so that he can go to work to keep
Yeah,
you alive and him alive.
yeah,
Now
yeah.
he's able to come back now.
Yes, yes. Yeah.
Okay. And so did the hazmat team arrive after 30 days and test you?
Yes, they test. They test. Yes.
And were you
Um.
surprised that you got a negative?
Um. I'm not. I'm delighted I have a negative, but
Yeah.
I wasn't really showing symptoms. I
Yeah.
wasn't sick. I
And
didn't have.
what is the general attitude of the hazmat? I mean, are they treating you decently, or are they like a team of, unconcerned or unfeeling, or are they acting human underneath?
Well, what I've heard is that the ones that come to the home are more kinder than the ones that you meet out on the street, as if you've just gone. Maybe you're trying to get into your warehouse wherever you work, and the employ. If you work in a big warehouse like Amazon, like maybe that company would pay for the hazmat team to be there 24/7. If anyone testing positive, they will go to the hazmat team, and then they will get quarantined for however long they need. So those kind of people are more aggressive because they're taking people out of the environment. They think they're going to work, and then they can't accept that they're being locked up for 2 weeks, and maybe the whole family's going to be locked up for 2 weeks. And I believe there's a difference between the ones that come to the home and the ones that are out. But
So there's hazmat teams on the street, literally on the roads, or in the businesses on the
no,
roads?
it's especially like the large businesses. Let's say it's not Amazon, but it's like Amazon. It's I'm not going to say the name, but it's like Amazon over here. So they'd have trucks coming from different places, and they pay for a hazmat team to be there. They pay for it for their own money. So you'd have large corporations that would pay for a hazmat team to be there. Maybe a large supermarket could pay it
So
to
somebody
witness
comes
that.
in and they test positive, like
You
they
can't get
enter
into
a
work.
pharmacy, they're pulled aside and they're tested right then and
Yes.
there with COVID test.
Yes, you would say, but you could say you would know which pharmacies are doing it because it was maybe that'd be a pharmacy in a huge shopping center. So maybe the shopping center, for security reasons, had paid for a hazmat team to be there and to protect the whole shop. So you would avoid any major. If you could avoid a major place, you'd go to a tiny place, and the
So you
tiny
can,
places are being surveilled then by the police because you have to have your mask. So you see the police outside the smaller shops, making sure you have your mask anyway. So it is either the hazmats or just
the
the police
police.
with the mask situation.
So you have not gotten any support from the government financially. In
No,
America, we have gotten a couple of major checks,
yeah,
and a lot of people are getting unemployment. So are you getting any of that there?
no, you wouldn't get that. No, no.
Nothing.
And even if it was, I mean, maybe you're talking. Like, I've never been unemployed over here, but I have one neighbor that only gets €50 a month off the government. You know,
So
I
how are
don't
people
have.
surviving if they can't work?
There is I haven't had to avail of it, but I do see that if people in dire straits, like that gentleman or maybe some retired people, they do bring a box of food to them. I have seen them bringing boxes of food. So I didn't get that. So I mean, I don't know what's in the boxes. Yeah.
They don't ask you, when they put you in 30-day quarantine, how are you going to survive? They just put you in quarantine.
Yeah, well, they don't say 30 days. They'd say two weeks, and then we test again. And if you need another negative to get out of it, and if you don't, you stay in until you get your negative test.
So when did your 30 days end? For some reason, you had 30 days, not 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Why did you have a 30-day and not a 2-week?
Well, I tell you, when I first got it, I felt sick for about 2 days, but I didn't know. It could be just a normal flu, and I had a high temperature, and then I got better. And then you're into my second week, I got high temperature again. And because I had been in contact with somebody, and then I had a high temperature, for safety, another 2 weeks was required.
Okay. So what is your life like now? Your husband's back.
Yes.
What's the temperature been like in Poland? What was it like for him living in a car? I mean, bathroom
Yeah.
facilities, shower. I mean, what was that like for him?
Well, there's no bathroom facilities or guards. Not like America, where I believe you can pull over in petrol stations and have all these showers. It's not like that. What he did was he went to work. He wasn't able to avail of showers and stuff in work. The temperature normally is a lot colder than it is. So it's not been too cold. We haven't had snow yet. Normally we have snow already. But this is where maybe the weather is being controlled. Well, why don't we have snow? We should be a foot deep in snow for the last month, but we're not.
Yeah.
So it's been quite warm.
So he's not been freezing. It's very uncomfortable if you don't have a shower, if you don't have a bathroom, if you don't have a regular way to eat. So it's been very uncomfortable for him. And lucky he's probably your age. He's young.
Yeah.
If this would happen to someone 60 or 70, they might
Yeah.
not have done so well.
Yeah.
And that's probably is happening. If it's happening to you, we can assume it's happening to many, many other people that might be in Poland globally. That might be even worse. At least you're young and you have each other. And so now that you're out of quarantine, what is your daily life like as far as, getting what you need, your groceries? What is life like other than it seems like you're completely under police control?
Mm-hmm. Well, when we first went into quarantine 255 days ago, the police were every hour outside every apartment block with loudspeakers saying, "Stay home, stay home, stay home."
Loudspeakers.
Yes, they were driving around for the entire lockdown, and it was really traumatizing. And
oh my God,
they have stopped that now. They've stopped driving around private estates and outside people's apartments, and they played a speaker for a few minutes. Stay home, stay home. The churches in the local villages will play the "Stay home, coronavirus," all this message. Stay home, stay safe, don't go out. And so now they have eased off on that speaker business. So there does seem to be, maybe I'm just because I'm used to it. I know what time to go to shop. For example, you have to go to shop after 12 in the afternoon. From the morning up to 12 is for seniors only over here. Because what was happening was the young people were going and buying all the food and the bread and the stuff.
That happened here too.
Yes. So to go to the shop, and then I try to go once a week and get everything I need, and then basically stay at home. I still stay at home quite a lot, because you have to wear the mask when you go outside.
Yeah.
I can't really go for a walk and stuff. And I feel that staying at home for 30 days until I was symptom free or whatever, it did a lot to my health. 30 days sitting at home in a small apartment, I do feel weaker now when I go out. So I'm taking care of that. Got a message?
Yeah, they're saying they've expanded the 30 minute limit, which I'm really glad. I thought they did anyway. I sort of read up on it, and if it's
Okay.
just one or two other people, it can go on indefinitely. If it's more than two, yada yada. So I think we're safe, because I'm glad, because I still have a lot of questions to ask, and
Hmm.
it's very interesting. I hope a lot of Americans who are pro-mask, pro-lockdown can be educated to see where we're headed if we continue believing this psyop. So it's a very valuable interview, and your experience. I mean, I didn't, I'm pretty limitless in what I believe could happen in our world, but even this one took me by surprise. If you're a
Yes.
targeted individual, you've been down all the rabbit holes, and you've been through generally your whole life. You're exploring and uncovering levels of evil. If someone had asked me that they could shut down the whole world in 2 weeks, and that everyone would believe it, I would have
Hmm.
said no, that could not happen. And I'm the type of person that will say almost any, I know how evil and corrupt, but even this has taken me by surprise. And Poland is clearly much worse than you. And I'm just going to try to share my screen again. This is kind of a little bit new for me. So let's see. I love maps, so I wanted to. Can you see what I see yet?
No, I just see your face. Yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
you still see my face? Okay, let me
Mhm.
try again. I okay. I think probably now you can see it. Can you
Yes.
see a map?
Yes.
Is it very big?
I make it bigger.
Um,
Hmm.
if the screen sharing isn't going to work, I'm going to
Hmm.
I wanted to ask you a couple of questions about where you are and where you came from.
Hmm.
Let's see. So can you see that map?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Okay, so do you mind if I ask you a couple questions about where you
Sure.
came from and where
Yes.
you're at?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
you sure?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So where did you come from in Ireland? And if you don't mind asking, I mean, it makes sense. We could get a little bit into targeting. It's all woven together. We're all targets now with this COVID.
Yes.
We were special before, right? Now everybody's
I know.
targeted. So where did you come from? I mean, we all think of Ireland, with leprechauns and rainbows and green, and so it's not like that apparently.
No, know where I'm from. No,
Where are you from?
I'm from Dublin, the capital city.
Okay,
Dublin.
that's not
Yeah.
showing here, huh?
It is there. Yes, there. Look, Dublin. There.
Oh, the
The
big,
big one.
big, big one. Oh
Yeah.
God. Okay, you're
Yeah.
from Dublin. Okay.
Yeah. So I grew up on the coast, like near the sea in Dublin. So I was
Sounds
near the sea and
sounds
in the
idyllic.
city.
Sounds
Yes, it
idyllic.
was
Um,
beautiful. It really was a great place to grow up. Not anymore.
what
It was a great place.
happened there to you as far as you became a targeted individual,
Yes,
correct?
I did become a target individual, and between that and the struggle to survive, because when they opened the borders in Europe and everybody flew into Ireland, and it was a very small country, the cost of living,
Immigration.
yeah, like you would need to work to afford a house. You would need 4,000 euros a month to afford a house, and two people working, me and my husband, uh, between it was impossible to live on the
Yeah.
money that we were making when both of us working. Uh, but and also being targeted, uh, we decided
Um,
to,
yeah, I mean,
go more off grid.
globally, well, in the West, especially Europe and America, immigration has become a huge problem for that reason that you just mentioned, or for many reasons, and
Yeah.
that's one of the primary, is the immigrants are outing all the natural citizens as far as
Yes.
jobs and opportunity and resources. So
Yes.
that's a serious problem. We're trying to lock down here, as you probably know, because of Trump. We've had to lock a little bit
Yes.
more control. So how
You
did
know,
you?
like my parents bought a beautiful house and in a nice neighborhood, and they paid 36,000, pounds for it at the time. And if I was to buy the house, I'd need over a million
Yeah, that's a
pounds.
lot like
And
the
it's,
US. I think my parents, my
yeah,
father, I'm much older than you, but my father bought a house in a Boston suburb. I think it was around the same price in the 70s, and it was
hmm
36,000, and I think he sold it for
yes,
800,000, and that was 15 years ago. It's probably a million now, and it was a little cape. I mean, that's
yes.
happening everywhere. So how did you I think we're about 35 minutes. I would like to, I'd like to at least do an hour, but I know people don't watch things too long. So
Okay.
I'd like, we can do another one after this, but how
hmm
how did you get targeted? Do you know why and how?
Well, I believe it was my family first targeted me. I'd say that my family were in a positive cult. They were in a cult more. It was one of these positive groups, was there was a kind of a cult leader, and he was doing courses and things like this. Now that man himself is actually another family. He was a cousin, my mother's cousin. So the whole family was kind of involved in this positive course, and they'd sell courses, and I really just thought it was
A cult.
bullshit what he was doing. Sorry, and I didn't support the work of this group, and that's when I first got targeted by the crazy other culty people, because they felt that I was going against the leader, and that's when it first started, when I got expelled from my family and I moved in with my boyfriend, and I was constantly harassed by people sent from either my family who were insulted that I had turned away from them, or maybe people who were trying to protect the cult leader or
Hmm.
the other cult members.
I think like a lot of targeted individuals, you're
Yeah.
very in touch with truth and your
Yes.
intuition, and
Yes.
you illuminate wherever you are. You illuminate with light, and that's very scary to the dark.
Yeah.
I hate to use the word dark, to evil on its many levels. So
Mm.
that's often how a lot of people get targeted, is they just start to naturally see the truth, and everyone
Yes.
else around them is freaking out, but you're
Mm.
like, no, these people are crazy, and they're like, how dare you? So that's often the beginning. I mean, women, young, especially young beautiful women who are vulnerable, who may not have resources, who aren't attached to a man, it's a high percentage of
Yes.
this program are young, attractive women who they can torture, because it's a torture
Absolutely.
system.
hmm
And you may have fallen into that category as well. It's like the perfect storm. You're also intelligent, you're outspoken, you're intuitive. It's the perfect storm. They like to eliminate us.
hmm I think as well, what they tried to do was put me out there, that I was so isolated. And
Yeah.
I think that they were trying to maybe send like a knight in shining armor to try, I'll help you, I'll protect you.
Yeah.
And this was going to be the most evilest man you ever meet, because really he was going to control me even more, and in the guise of, I'm here to help you.
Yeah,
I felt,
the devil rarely presents himself as such, right? The
yeah.
devil's usually exactly what you think you need, or what they think that you need. So you really need to be in touch with your intuition to
hmm
navigate this landmine of handlers. Really, they become
Yes.
handlers.
Exactly.
So
And I did not fall for any of their tricks. I could see the bullshit coming before it even hit me. I could
yeah,
see who was real and who wasn't, and they didn't get me. And that led to more targeting.
yeah,
My car was targeted. The brakes were cut. Things were going wrong on me all the time,
your
and
brakes
it
were
was,
cut.
yeah. So the brakes were cut, and I I remember bringing the car to the garage, and one mechanic was Polish, and he told me, he said, what happened? And he showed me the brakes were cut, and he fixed it. And when I went back to pay, I asked for the manager, and I said, can I get some documents that I can bring to the police to show that my brakes were cut? And this was a large like garage. It had multiple places around. And the manager said, oh no, we cannot give you anything that it will say it was cut. Maybe a stone a stone could have done it. And I was like, you know, a stone. It was a perfect cut in the brake wire because I seen it.
So attempted murder.
Yes.
Have you been by directed energy weapons, or has it been mostly gang stalking and like you've been describing?
Well, I think that the direct energy weapons were not to do with my gang stalkers. There, I really felt that they came from something else that I wasn't aware of, and how they found me in the mass of the people, I don't know, because I know I was dealing with gang stalkers, and people harassing me, but I still think that those people were not connected to any energy weapons. It really felt like it was interdimensional or something. It was not people.
Well, it is multi-level. You know, they do work, you know, very advanced systems, you know, on the physical and on the spiritual. So there could be many systems that may have been interrelated, but they did not seem to be, but there was intelligence and data between them about you, because once you piss off one group of that satanic realm, they're going to start to work together. They may not appear to be together, but they're going to start to work in some degree in unison to try to, well, in your case, they definitely tried to murder you.
Yes.
So was it after your brakes were cut that you fled to Poland?
No, I began, because it wasn't that easy. You know, I had to think of a plan, and I had to do things. So it was many years planning and direction. I decided then to go more off grid. You know, to go to a forest and go far away from it all, which I did for a few years, many years.
Sorry, are you seeing this map of Poland?
Yes.
Okay. So where are you now?
I think that's an old map, but it says that looks like an old map. But do you see up here, up near the sea up there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that looks like I'm near there. I'm near it's the town called Branivo. Yes. Looks like more down here, more down near the sea there. Okay. The Baltic Sea, near the Baltic Sea.
Oh, the Baltic down here.
Yeah. Oh no, up high, see the Baltic Sea up there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So up here then.
Yes.
All right. So you're in the north.
Yes.
And is things pretty much the same? And like how long ago did you arrive in Poland?
I'm here 4 years now, and I came 4 years, and I started to live in the forest.
By yourself?
No, with my husband. We started to live and have a cabin in the woods and have a life in the forest.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. We did.
You know what? I need to get my computer charger. Because I'm getting a notification it's getting low, and luckily it's not too far away. Okay. So at first it must have been a relief. You found some sanity and peace in the woods.
Yes, we did. And then what happened? We didn't know whether it was Mother Nature or was it our bad luck. We still have the house in the forest and everything, but we just kept having natural disasters. Like we flooded, and we're really high up. We're not even low. Like how we flooded, it's unbelievable. Or I'd be walking in the forest, and I was driving in the forest, and a tree fell in front of my car, and then a tree fell behind my car, and it wasn't even windy, and so maybe it was just an old tree fell. I don't know, but there was many instances where strange things.
Yeah.
were happening, and it could have been just life is more brutal out there in nature or whatever. So we decided then to come into the city for a while, and with the change of atmosphere, it did us good, and we still have the place in the forest to go to.
Good.
Yeah.
For targeted individuals, there's often satanic curses going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens to a lot of us, no matter how you try to make things come out right, everything is upside down, inside out, and often dangerous. No matter,
Yes.
unlike other people that could be doing the same exact thing and things unfold in a normal process. Whereas us, trees fall, there's floods, there's accidents, and a lot of that is curses that are put out
Mhm.
on you.
Yes.
So it maybe that was like you couldn't escape that even out in the woods, because it's
Yes.
like it's an imprint on your energy field,
Mm-hmm.
which is not impossible to overcome. In fact, you can overcome them with shamanic work and healing. But it sounds like you get away from some of the danger, but then again, if you're a targeted individual, they move in other ways. So
Mm-hmm.
oh, I wanted to mention let's see. Okay, this may seem unrelated, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
This is artistic whistleblower.
Okay.
This is her Twitter feed. She was one of the original Jeffrey Epstein whistleblowers who got him
Okay.
arrested, and she's now a cancer patient. And as she is saying, she has testified on her Twitter that cancer patients are being ignored for COVID testing.
Okay.
So, yeah, so all this testing, and this is related to what we were talking about before,
Mhm.
is pulling all our medical away from real patients
Yes.
into testing procedures, because I think there's a lot of money and there's a lot of government support for COVID. So she is somebody who's done a great deal of like amazing work for women. Of course, no feminists are coming forward to support her.
Okay.
She really brought down Jeffrey Epstein, her and a couple of other women, and she's in the hospital with cancer. And she said she almost died of dehydration because of puking and them
Mhm.
not restoring her fluids because they were all down on the COVID. And she said that's happening, throughout the hospital. And I've heard of other hospitals that
Yes.
all our medical attention is going. So this is artistic whistleblower. She is, I don't know if you're on Twitter, you might want to follow her.
Good. Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yes. It's the
she
same over
is,
here.
hmm?
They're pushing the cancer patients out, like that old man who was told to go home. You
Yeah.
know. I.
So anybody might want to consider following her. She did a great service to women and girls by bringing out all the truth about Jeffrey Epstein, her and like Virginia Giuffre. But now, she's fighting to stay alive even in the hospital because COVID medical people, I mean, medical people are going to so-called COVID patients and this insanity of COVID testing. It's like
Yes.
taking away from real patients. And she's just I'm always praying for her. And so that was a testimony that sort of led into, and then I just picked up this, can you see this? Poland's health system faces
Yes.
collapse. So
Yes.
that's sort of what artistic whistleblower has said, but in a different way.
Yes.
Like they're all these medical people are going to the so-called crisis, and real
Yes.
people with real diseases are actually dying.
Exactly.
Poland is suffering from a shortage of doctors, nursing staff, and ICU.
Mm-hmm.
Field hospitals are being built to accommodate patients. The
Yes.
country's healthcare system is reaching its limits. Is that the Hazmat team?
That's right. Yes. That's what they look like.
Look at
Yes.
that poor woman. I mean, if she doesn't look like a Holocaust, with the mask and
Yes.
the terror and holding her child. And again, these images are to scare us and terrify us into submission. I mean, to
And
me,
if you do have to go to hospital over here now, they don't even let you in the door. You just go to a tent outside until they sort you out. You don't even get in the door. Mm.
Yeah, so this whole article to me sort of seems like a psyop. On Thursday, the number of new cases in Poland broke the threshold of 20,000. That doesn't mean anything. It could
No,
mean
one is 40
positives.
million. Yes, yes.
20,000 what? It's just like positives, which there's a lot of healthy people that test positive.
Hmm. Yes.
At this pace, the country's health system would soon reach its limits, he warned. If the rise of new infections remain the current, there'll be no way out. We'll
Hmm.
have to introduce a lockdown. So our system is capable of accommodating up to 30,000 COVID patients, except I guess 90-year-olds who they send home,
Yes.
right? The
Well,
high
that's
risk.
the case, but most people are getting sent home from the hospital. That's what I hear, just to suffer at
Yeah.
home.
So if everybody's going home, what's what's really going on? They're not, the
Yeah.
hospitals are empty, maybe.
Hmm. And then there's the lockdown. And when we first went into lockdown, you weren't allowed out anywhere. You had to stay at home. Only if you had some paper to say were an essential worker, you could go out. And we were in lockdown for a long time. I can't remember now. It was a long time. But like a gentleman I know, he used to go swimming and fishing. He used to go fishing every morning at 4 in the morning. He'd go to his fishing on his bicycle, and like he ended up killing himself during the lockdown because they took his only thing he lived for away from him to go out on his bike and bicycle and cycle over to the fishing to the lake. And that was one of the first men that I had talked to when I first moved to Poland, when I met him, and he was very helpful and nice. And he killed himself, and because of the lockdown. And I think the lockdown is killing more people than the COVID
Yeah,
is.
that's what
What
I'm
it does.
seeing. That's what I'm seeing. And I listen to a lot of international shows, and I talk to a lot of people like you. And my
Mhm.
impression is there's many more people dying as a result of the lockdown than are healing. Probably, I don't know if anybody is benefiting from the
Mhm.
lockdown. Maybe no one is. And the whole point is to potentially,
Mhm.
I'm going to stop the share. So that may be the whole point, is that this is, and you and I probably agree, this
Mhm.
is Agenda 21, which is depopulation.
Yes.
And in the name of helping us, they're killing us.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I'm praying more people wake up. And there's a huge movement here for freedom. It started as the Trump rallies. I don't know if you saw my video. It's sort of the Trump rallies evolving as freedom fighters, First Amendment. Because if you're armed, it puts quite a squelch on who can come into your house and how far they can go to take
Yes.
away. No, I'm not, the people that I know that are armed, the cowboys for Trump, and they're not flaunting it, but it creates a presence. Like
Mhm.
Antifa and BLM, they will not show up. So already they're peacekeepers.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
radical groups won't bother us if the cowboys are there, the bikers are there, and they're just peacefully sitting there with their flag and praying, and we're pledging allegiance. There's no violence because there's protection.
Mhm.
So, and the Trump rallies have not. In fact, there was a million march in DC, million people.
Yes.
And not that I'm advocating Trump, as I mean, I am and I'm not. It's like humanity. There's a huge. We're thinking 80 million people voted for Trump.
Yes.
Trump is anti-lockdown and anti-mask. So that whatever else he is, people think he is. I don't know. But without freedom, it doesn't matter. And if we have
Yes.
freedom, then we can start to explore the
Uh,
world
you,
again.
like this, we're like this in every country. I have family in Spain, and they have to be at home at 6 p.m. You're not allowed to, with the region that they're in. It's every country all over the world. What is the end game? I mean, what are they trying to do to us? It's been now, we're in 255 days of over here now. It's saying, oh, we'll go to Christmas, maybe we'll go to Easter. I just don't know what they are going to do to us, and what's that going to do to humanity. Let's say 1 year of this staying at home and only nothing being open and worrying about money, and
Well, it's killing. It's going to kill us, and it
Yes.
maybe that I believe that's the point, is the depopulation agenda, the Agenda 21.
You think
And
psychologically it will kill people? So that's where people will just give up the ghosts, or people.
yeah, I was watching Alex Belfield the other night. He's a talk show host in England. He
Mhm.
does talk shows Wednesday and Sunday night. And at some point, he said there's 150,000 people waiting for medical care, and they expect only half of them will die waiting. I don't know where he got that figure. It may be exaggerated, but it gives you an idea of what's really happening. If you can't get in to see a doctor because you have cancer, you have all these, you're
Mhm.
eventually going to die. So,
Okay.
and again, they had to give us the illusion of helping us to kill us, because it was,
Okay.
you know what I mean? It's a tactic that's easier for them to implement than them going out and lining us up and shooting us. If they
Mhm.
think that, if they've convinced us that they're helping us. Yeah, the suicide. Now, with the man that committed suicide, did you hear about that through the neighborhood, or was it actually in the newspaper?
No. We heard about it. No one had seen him for a few days, and then someone had a key, and they went in, and he was dead. Um, there was no funeral. We collected flowers for him, but that was during the major lockdown, and they took his body away, and he believed he was buried, but he'd never had a funeral.
No
Um,
funerals allowed some places.
yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
very convenient for them. No autopsy, no funeral. Nobody knows what happens.
yes,
Um,
yes.
well, I really appreciate your valuable insight, and
Thank you.
I'm sorry you didn't find complete relief in Poland,
No,
but
no,
you're not alone. This is,
yes,
global. And I have hopes, that we're going to push back on this here in America. And I
mhm,
think as America goes, so goes Europe, you know.
yes,
And there's a lot of freedom fighters here. No matter what happens with this election, that's not going to go away.
yes.
So it feels like the 10 days of darkness now, because we don't exactly know what's going on.
Mhm,
But I feel, again, no matter what happens, this movement
mhm.
isn't going to go away in America. It's
No.
too many people,
Mhm,
veterans, and 80 million. They're thinking it was 80 million people that voted for
mhm.
Trump. And a lot of those people voted because of freedom, that they
Yes.
felt our freedom was going to be taken away if we went the other direction. So there's
Mhm,
a
mhm.
lot of people fighting for freedom, and it won't
Yes.
stop.
There was one more thing I want to say that was very crazy about the situation, completely senseless. It was the second wave that came, and they decided that the second wave came because of the minks, and they went all across Europe from Greece to Denmark to Ireland, and they culled all the minks. And I just think that is so bizarre. And how I was not in contact with any minks. I mean, where are these minks? And I think that is absolutely bizarre. If you Google it, you'll just see these minks being loaded into big huge holes. But it was all across Europe, I believe.
From Poland, where did
From
you say?
Greece as well, Greece to Ireland to Denmark to. They were told that this wave is after coming in. The second wave has come to Europe, came from the minks, and
See,
then
this
then they
is
went
the
to.
part that, like, it's the Dr. Seuss world of COVID. Up is down, left
Yes,
is right. A mink that nobody has ever seen. Suddenly,
yes,
it's like they're effing with your mind as much as
exactly.
possible, trying to confuse you. I mean, it's very traumatic to think about all those innocent beings being slaughtered.
Yes,
So
yes,
this is this is not about health. This is not about saving us. This is not about caring about it. It's about us killing,
yes,
traumatizing, isolating, and taking down humanity.
yes.
And these
Mhm,
seemingly all these peripheral things reflect back to the main
mhm.
source, which is evil. I mean, it's evil to kill tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of mink for no reason.
Yes,
It's
yes.
almost like, let's just do one more horrible thing to traumatize people as much as we can.
Mhm,
And because and then you can, to me, that shows the evil, that this is from a very, very evil source.
Yes. Yeah.
Satanic. This is a satanic psyop,
Mm-hmm.
and much more successful than I could have ever imagined.
Yes. Exactly.
Again, I do have hope because I know that 80 million people
In
voted
America.
for Trump.
Yeah.
No matter what you think of him, I don't believe he's satanic, and I do believe the other side is.
Yes.
And they're all about lockdown. They're all about masks. They're all about vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all about Agenda 21. So I have hope. I hope you can. Are you going to stay in Poland? I mean,
I am. I am happy here. I mean, I like for me, you know, when I'm stressed or anything, I like to go back to my old pagan roots, go to the forest, go to the lakes, and it's absolutely beautiful over here. There's many lakes. My doorstep, there's 2 lakes, and they're so big. There's waves on them, and I go swimming in the lakes, and I love the nature. So
oh
yeah,
my
I
God,
definitely
yeah.
stay because I'm so close to nature. 100%.
Yeah.
That will get me through it, you know, that will get me through the hard
Yeah,
times.
if you're, you know, shamanic like you are and you're close to nature, that's getting a lot of us through because, you know, the trees haven't changed, the lakes haven't changed, the stars, the sun, the moon, they're all there for us still, and we can
Yes.
share their energy. And in fact, that's what you know, the shamanic workshop I'm putting together. I want to, you know, that'll be one of the main focuses, is connecting with nature in an even more deliberate way. And so
Yes.
that's something else we're going to talk about. Well, I'm glad you're finding, you know, that happiness there.
Yes,
And
I am.
that does sound beautiful. And now, if you can get far enough out, can you get to take your mask off, or they got cameras in the woods?
Certain areas I do have cameras, but you can take your camera. I take my mask off in the woods. Yes, yes,
There's
I
certain
do.
areas there's cameras in the woods.
Yes, there is, because a lot of people come and rob the firewood. You know, they
Trying to stay alive.
Yes, and so there's cameras in certain areas. So in the forest, you can go for a walk without your mask, especially
So
where my house
are you
is.
close enough where you can leave your house and go into the woods and take your mask off?
Right now in my apartment in the city, no, I don't, because we're staying here because the food, it's easier to get your food here, you
Yeah.
know. So we've come back to the city. Then when the pandemic started, it was better for us to come back
Yeah.
because you would think you'd be better off out there, but our situation, we needed to work, we needed to go to the shop,
Yeah.
and so we came back to the city and we found it.
So you have to drive out there.
Yes, and it's very isolated. Also, you
Good.
know, you could, if there's a storm, you'd be without electric and you'd be without internet, and it's very isolated in the forest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. I don't
Well,
know.
thank you.
I'm intermittent on Facebook, but
Yes.
sort of yesterday I had no feed. Today I do. Sometimes
Oh,
I
okay.
say something, sometimes I can't. Yeah, I had feed today. I get up and like, yeah, I can see everything today. So I may see you there. I am moving over to Parlor and everything, but we have
Yes,
meals. And you said you did get my October?
I did. I got it last night. Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes,
So,
it looks very interesting.
did you like it?
It looks very interesting. I have to sit down on the computer and read it because it came in on my phone, and it's better to read it on the computer.
Yeah, I'd love to get some feedback. I'm about to send out the other one. So
Mm.
anyway, thank you again, and I will be in touch with you very soon.
Okay.
And good luck, and keep going to the woods. It'd be great to have some
Absolutely.
pictures
Yes. Okay.
in your woods and your lakes. That'd be amazing.
Okay, definitely I will. It's beautiful
Okay.
there.
Take
And thank
care.
you very much, Jane. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you so much for doing
Mhm.
this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
So, thank you, Suzanne, for that amazing interview. Shocking. I'm still in a little bit of shock. It sounded like a really, really bad sci-fi movie, you know, where people are screaming and running down the streets and this giant reptile after them. But even worse in a way, at least there's passion and screaming and yelling and going somewhere when you have a giant reptile calling you. This is like death, you know, inside your house alone, with no food and no hope. So anyhow, I'm always pushing for that paradise earth, which I think is coming, but we have to take back our power and see each other as loving, healthy human beings. And yeah, so lots of love to everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. I'd love comments. Please like, share, and please comment and let me know what you liked and you didn't like.